3, 2, 1.
Woo! Hello, comrade.
Welcome back to some more spooky shit.
Well, if you notice, I was talking in Russian because I said comrade. And, yeah, we're drinking Moscow Mules.
I don't think that's called speaking in Russian. You were speaking English while saying a Russian term.
We pretend to speak Russian while they pretend to pay us.
That's true. But we are drinking a Moscow Mule from Desolation Distilling.
It's actually really good.
I like Moscow Mule. So we're stepping away from beer. This is a first.
I know, right?
So what made you decide to take a mule rather than a beer?
I was like, I'm going to be Russian today.
Okay. It's a hell of a choice for Sunday.
Yeah, because we release these on Sundays.
Yeah. We record and release and do all of it same day.
We don't even edit because we're so good.
No practice, just off the cusp. So I have to tell you, Cleet, because I was a little pissed off about this fact. Do you remember last year, around Halloween, when Home Depot had a certain yard ornament that went for sale?
We almost stole a skeleton one night. Look, if we were drunk, we would have stolen that 9-foot skeleton from that person's yard.
I was going to say, if I was sober, I would have stolen it.
No, we were driving. We were sober as fuck. We don't do that.
But yeah, so the 12-foot skeleton. So they announced another one. So they have the 12-foot skeleton, but now it's like a giant Pumpkin King skeleton thing. So I guess Home Depot released their stock at midnight, and it all sold out.
They're off the mark. They just need to keep making bigger skeletons every year.
Yeah. But they released them, and they already sold out. It's not even October. It's July.
Yeah.
And they're all sold out. So we'll never have our 12-foot skeleton.
I want a 20-foot skeleton.
A 20-footer? I want a 50-footer.
Or maybe just want a bender that breathes fire that says, remember me.
Can you imagine a 50-foot skeleton? It'd have to be like helicopter dropped into your yard. It's like, lower it down slowly, don't break it. But yeah, I was pretty pissed off at that. But I have a question for you. So it's a would you rather question set in the horror universe, Cleet. So would you rather have to deal with The Thing or The Blob?
Okay.
And why?
So I will first open this question with, have you seen both movies?
I have seen The Thing. Actually, I've seen both. I've seen the original and then the remake. I have not seen The Blob because it was from like 58.
Yeah, I've seen both, and I'll let you know. Like the original Thing is like the best scary movie I've ever seen. It is aged so goddamn well, and the theories in the movie itself, like I respect that movie. Like there is never going to be a better Thing. They can make a Thing 2, a Thing 3. They have a remake of The Thing. It'll never be as good as the original.
So it is your favorite horror movie, is what you just said.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Okay. Like literally, if I ever meet a gal and she says she likes horror movies, it's probably one of the top 3 I'll recommend.
So your first question is, so you like horror movies? Do you like The Thing? And if she says no,
do you want to see
over?
The Thing?
It's over. Oh my god. It's funny that you mentioned The Thing. Check this out.
Okay, so the weaknesses of The Thing and The Blob. So they're actually opposites, which is actually makes it a really interesting question. The Thing itself it's weak against fire because it's like there's a genetic virus code. It invades your cells and it makes your cells a thing, and they replicate, and it just takes you over.
But it can only replicate natural things. Like it can't replicate like jewelry.
Correct.
Or like fake teeth.
Yeah, that's how they. So
that's how you
spot
find.
It in the, prequel of The Thing.
Spoiler alert.
The Blob is the opposite. It like you make it cold, you make it shatter. You know, I remember watching The Blob. I thought it was great when I was a kid. I watched it when I was like 6. But when I saw The Thing when I was like 20, I'm like, it blew my socks off.
Literally.
Yeah.
Just socks gone. So which one?
I deal with The Blob, man.
Okay.
The Thing is, I think it's different and it has human intelligence. Like it's literally an intelligent being that just wants to create a hive mind on a planet. Like you can't beat that.
Right. Well, and I think The Thing would be harder to deal with because it can replicate people you know.
It's an amalgamation of intelligence.
Right. Until like gets found and then it starts to like morph into those crazy, nasty, insane. And like it was not CGI that they did. It was all like actual practical effects in that film.
That's what made it so good too and age well.
But I feel like the Blob, I didn't see it, but did the Blob ever like pretend to be someone, or was it just an actual huge blob that went around?
I mean, like it's a blob, and it depends. It's been a long time since I've seen that, and I've seen the who's the famous horror writer that wrote like a similar blob version. It's about like a blob that like hibernates in like underwater, like deep underwater. And then every like 300 years it comes up and just like eats a whole town of like animals, and it can like replicate them too. And then after it kills like a bunch of people, it just goes underwater and hibernates again. And that's the explanation of like all the missing like towns in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds really interesting. I haven't heard of that one. But I want to go back and watch The Blob, though, because I've known about it, but I've never actually sat down and watched it.
So to answer your question, I would not want to face The Thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I would deal with The Thing, because it's in the dead of summer, so it's easy to fry the fuck out of it.
That's not how it works.
And then in winter, I'd do it The Blob. It's all weather-based, bud. Depends on where we're at and when we're there. No, I think I would deal with The Blob as well. I think that would be a lot easier to deal with than The Thing that can constantly morph and change into people you know and love.
I'll just get my oven mitts and throw it in the freezer. He laughs. That's like the dumbest thing in the world.
That was stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's kind of cool. So, would you rather say Candyman in front of the mirror or watch the tape from The Ring?
I wouldn't be opposed to doing either. I'll actually do both at the same time.
Oh, so you're going to sit there and say Candyman while watching The Ring?
Yeah. I was more scared of The Ring when I was a kid, but I appreciate the Candyman more as an adult.
So they're redoing the Candyman.
Yeah,
and it looks so good.
Oh, the bees.
Yeah, the trailer that they just released for it a couple weeks ago looks fantastic. I am so excited for it. But anyway, so those are some really fun questions to start out with here. So our topic for today, we're actually doing something we haven't done in a minute. We're going to be doing our listener submission episode.
Yep, we were going to cover, what is it, the Bell Witch?
The Bell Witch, which came as a suggestion from our longtime listener, Ryan. So thank you, Ryan, for the suggestion.
So we'll be covering that as well as some esoteric short stories found on the web.
Esoteric, that's the word of the day. All right, so why don't you start with one of these esoteric stories then?
Okay. Our first witching story is called The Bear Walker. I was a victim of a bear walker.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. In First Nations culture, a bear walker is someone who uses our sacred medicines for bad and not good. They can make someone very sick, and only a medicine man may reverse it, and it often comes as a gamble for the bear walker. Once reversed, they will suffer more than the one they made sick.
Damn.
So it's kind of like if you do a curse on someone, it can come back to you like 3 times as bad.
So then you just don't ever want to do a curse. You're like, this is going to rebound so bad, and I don't want to have to deal with the repercussions.
I don't know. I was 20 years old and very healthy. One night, I had a dream. I was in a field, and I was picking wild flowers. From each direction, a tornado was coming at me.
Ooh.
I woke up in a fevered sweat. That began 2 months of sheer misery.
What is this? What is the symbolism of having 2 tornadoes approaching you? Like, what does that mean?
It means you're fucked.
Okay.
Yeah, like you're done.
It's a very roundabout way of getting there.
Yeah.
They go like, doctor, what does this mean? Simply means you're fucked. Have a good day.
I'd be a good medicine doctor.
You're right?
My doctor kept saying that I had a UTI. She would give me antibiotics, and it would subside for a while. So she's in a lot of pain, urinary tract infection. I lost 40 pounds in the span of 2 months.
Oh.
By the end of it, I couldn't walk, barely ate. Finally, my mom got tired of it. My sisters bundled me up, and we went to the hospital. Though an early ultrasound showed nothing, there was a huge growth on my ovary.
Ugh.
A few days later, I had a surgery, and when the doctor came to visit me, he said he'd never seen anything like it. It was yellow, almost concrete-like substance around my ovary. I got better, but my mother remained unconvinced and scheduled an appointment with a medicine man. We gave him tobacco, and he smoked a pipe and sang a song. See, I'd like to be a medicine man. Like, yeah, give me some tobacco. I'm going to figure this out.
See, you've messed with me so much that I was like, you're going off script here. Gave me a bunch of tobacco. I just smoked, and everything was better.
An American flag, and we said amen.
We all got high, did a little jig, and things were gone. My ovary was cured. But it was funny earlier, like, yeah, my mom had just had it. I thought she was like, my mom had had it. She kicked me out. She didn't want to hear me cry anymore. It's like, Jesus, Ma.
The medicine man said something along the lines of a woman seeing me at a powwow. She became interested in who I was because of my mother. She threw a piece of medicine in my path. I stepped on it, and it went up the right leg. He asked me if I still felt it. I said yes. He took a bone. What kind? I'm not sure. Placed it in an area and began to suck. Weird, I know. He started vomiting. Yellow. Vomiting yellow.
What
It's
the
gross.
hell? This whole situation of like, what is happening? They're throwing
Right.
medicine down, you're soaking it up through your leg. This guy starts sucking on a bone, pukes everywhere.
Not good, man.
Like, I'm out of here.
Was this Beelzebub? I don't know what's going on.
What
But
kind of medicine is this?
he gave me medicines and rituals for my mom to do. I went home that night and slept for 13 hours.
Yeah.
My sickness never returned.
Damn.
Dude, I will say one thing, Native Americans, they got something about them. They have those stories, and it's hard to dismiss.
Well, they're just so in tune with everything. Like
You
the
naturally
earth
want to
and-
dismiss it, and you're like, well, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm not going to dismiss anything like that because they do have some kind of third eye type thing. They're really in tune and really in touch with nature and all that stuff. Like, it's just crazy. All right, well, that was pretty cool. Is that a real story? Is it true?
Allegedly.
I think it's true. My truth dar, as you would say, is going. It's in the green. It's like pinging in the green. All right, well, let's jump into this Bell Witch here. So I had never heard of the Bell Witch before, but my wife had heard about her because I was like, yeah, I'm talking about the Bell Witch this week. She was like, oh, I know them. I was like, oh, well, I don't, so that's cool. Do you know the Bell Witch?
She hide in porta potties and put women in there.
I'm just kidding. I told you not to read the script.
Oh,
What the fuck? So the Bell Witch, or the Bell Witch haunting, dates all the way back to 1817 and lasted roughly until 1821. So it's a really long spree there in Robertson County, Tennessee. Do you remember what the urban legend was in Tennessee? I have no idea. We did like 50 of them or something.
Imagine it's like a Bigfoot, but I'm probably wrong. Skunk ape.
Yeah, every state has their own Bigfoot. According to legend, the Bell family, along with some local townsfolk, were haunted by an apparition that was able to speak, affect the physical environment, and even shapeshift. This is the story of the Bell Witch. The legend is best described by author Martin V. Ingram in his book An Authenticated History of the Bell Witch. In this book, Martin describes the entity to be named Kate, after the apparition itself claimed to be Old Kate Batts' witch, and would respond favorably when that name was used. The activity produced by this entity was mostly focused on the Bell's youngest daughter by the name of Betsy and the father, John Bell Sr. Kate became extremely displeased when Betsy became engaged to Joshua Gardner, who was a local man in the town. The ghost is like, you don't get to be engaged. You get to live forever alone. The hauntings began in 1817 when John began to witness strange apparitions that resembled a dog around his property. Being nervous, he would fire at the dog, causing it to disappear. Is it like, why would your first reaction be to shoot a dog? Unless you've got like a bunch of like livestock that you're worried
Depends
about.
on how the dog looks, man. It's
like
like some floppy feet.
It's got some floppy feet.
Yeah.
John's son, named Drew, also began to see apparitions in the form of a bird. Now, you think of a bird and you're like, okay, whatever. But this bird was of extraordinary size and was of an unknown species. And every time Drew approached, it would fly off into the distance.
Call those thunderbirds in the West.
Yep. The daughter, Betsy, began to see a girl in a green dress that was swinging from the limbs of the oak tree in the yard. A bit of a forewarning for trigger-sensitive material here. This did take place back when slavery was still a thing. Dean, a man who had been enslaved by the Bell family, described seeing a black dog around the property that would follow him around, even when he left the property to visit his wife during the evenings. So I'm imagining it is some really big, scary black dog that you probably don't want following you around.
Right.
So everyone's seeing this entity something different. Like the dad and Dean are seeing these things as a dog. The son is seeing a bird, and the daughter is seeing some girl in a green dress.
Seems some type of omen of bad, of a bad future.
It's like two tornadoes coming at you.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, so this thing can shapeshift. So supposedly it's just one entity that's shapeshifting. I don't know if each one like pertains to them specifically. Like, why would he see a bird when the other one saw a dog? It doesn't quite go into that. Shortly after the family began seeing these various apparitions, they began to hear knocking sounds around the home on the doors and the walls. They would also report hearing noises of gnawing on the beds, invisible dog fights, and even chains that sounded like they were being dragged across the floor.
That's pretty creepy, man. That'd keep me up at night.
Middle of the night, you just hear
Gnawing at the
chains.
bed.
Yeah, like someone gnawing on your bedpost. Yeah, I'm not about that. It's like someone whistling in your ear in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Around this time, John began to experience paralysis of the mouth. Sheets would be pulled from the beds where the children slept, and even began pulling hair, scratching, and slapping the children across the face.
That's why I have a Walther PPQ under my pillow.
Yeah. You're just going to shoot the ghost in the face?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grab my gun.
I don't think you're going to be able to hit it, though.
Yeah, just had to replace, like, some sheetrock on my wall.
Yeah, you just have a bunch of construction work to do in the morning. Betsy, the daughter, received the worst of the slaps, along with being pinched and stuck with pins, so the ghost would, like, target her a lot more fiercely than her siblings. Out of desperation and panic, the Bells turned to a family friend by the name of James Johnston for help. James decided to stay at the Bell house that evening so he could see these apparitions for himself. He reported being awoken by similar phenomena that the family had been experiencing. During the next morning for breakfast, he told John that he was most definitely haunted by a spirit, just like in the Bible. Soon after, word of these hauntings spread throughout the town and even outside of the town, causing folks to travel huge distances just to come and experience these hauntings for themselves.
That's interesting.
So,
Maybe
like,
they could make some money.
Yeah.
Coming to the haunted house.
See, you're all about profit. Like, hey, come check out the ghost, $5.
Yeah.
I can just go hide behind the walls and knock, and we can make some money real fast.
Yeah, let's make a high house.
Okay. So yeah, people are traveling all over the place to look at this thing. It was at this point that the apparition began to speak out loud for itself, and at one point was asked, "Who are you, and what do you want?" A feeble voice responded with, "I am the spirit. I was once very happy, but have been disturbed.
I want a Charleston True."
Over time, the spirit would offer various explanations surrounding its appearance, mainly describing the disturbance of a Native American burial mound located on the Bell property. You don't fuck with burial grounds.
Amen.
Ever. It's like the movie, The Exorcist. They filmed on a Native American burial site.
You don't do that.
Pazuzu!
Sorry.
Pazuzu! This spirit sent Drew and his friend Bennett Porter on an unproductive treasure hunt that yielded no results. It's like, hey, there's some treasure somewhere in that quadrant. Oh, no, it's over here. And they just sat there and dug for treasure for days, finding nothing.
I'm a ghost, and I would like to offer you stock in a gold mine in the Rocky Mountains.
Oh, suckers.
Sign me up, Moroni.
Soon, the spirit began having full conversations and would repeat, word for word, 2 sermons that were given 13 miles apart at the exact same time. What do you make of that?
Yeah,
Calling BS on this?
I think it's really interesting. I'm actually kind of remembering hearing about this.
The spirit appeared to be very knowledgeable with biblical text and seemed to enjoy religious arguments. It also enjoyed gossip, especially around activities that took place in various households in the town. So it's like hovering to people's homes and spying on you. It's like, this guy takes a shit at 3 o'clock every single day, and while he's pooping, he sings religious hymns. Oftentimes, the spirit would visit homes after an inquiry was made. So, I'm just imagining like this small town, this small community, and they have this ghost at this one house, the Bell house, right? And they start to experience certain things like sheets are being pulled, this girl's being slapped, they're seeing apparitions. And the friend comes over, and he's like, hey, I'm going to check this out for myself. So he does, and then over breakfast, they're like, dude, this shit's real. Like, you've got a ghost. And then he goes and talks to some townsfolk, and then this blows up. And then now everyone's interested. But now it's like this ghost that's like gossiping and going from house to house. Like, oh, did you know that the Johnsons over there into some kinky shit, man?
So-and-so's cheating on them.
Yeah.
Them? What?
But now that they can make inquiries, like they can ask the like spirit, like, hey, come to my house and like hang out. We're going to play some dominoes or something, some marbles.
I bought a Hasbro toy called Luigi.
Luigi. But like, I don't know. It's almost like a funny ghost sitcom almost.
But
like,
then it turns dark.
It's like a what is it, like a reality show. The Real House Ghosts of, Belltown.
All it said to me was, "You are not the father."
Yeah,
Said from Ellen.
from Ellen. Did Ghosterous. But I thought it was funny. Like, it's just like these hauntings that happen, and now
Spreads across the town like a bluegrass
and the
movement.
ghost is just like walking through, like spying on people, hanging out, and like gossiping and singing hymns and arguing about biblical stuff. So I just think it's funny. But anyway, so we'll take a pause there with the Bell Witch. I want to hear another one of your crazy stories that you got here.
Okay. This story is called Noises from the Basement.
I'm already hooked.
Wasn't me.
Shaggy.
This happened a few years ago. I was on a dating site and I matched with an attractive person. So I started chatting. We made it to the plans tonight.
You're supposed to tell us a ghost story, not your last night's experience, Cleet.
Yeah.
Come on, bud.
They just ghost me.
What's the actual ghost story
I
here?
can't even get a text back.
I was ghosted.
So we got to the let's make plans tonight part of the conversation, and she told me she was going to play hide and go seek with Fluffy,
What the fuck?
pointing out the item in the second profile picture, a bloody rabbit mask.
What the hell?
Okay, let's be weird. So I played along until she mentioned that they would be playing in my basement.
Oh my god. I don't even know what I would do.
Yeah.
You match with this girl, she's like, I'm going to play hide and seek with Fluffy in your basement. Come find me.
We're going to listen to you.
I'd be like, you come anywhere near my house, I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah. I thought, how in the hell? Wild guess, probably. I lied and told her that I didn't have a basement. I don't have a basement.
So I don't actually have a basement, so you're a liar. Huh?
She immediately texts him and says, oh, yeah? And I heard Snickle Fritz booming from the basement. It says booming, though. That would scare the shit out of me if I heard that. I'll tell you
Like
that.
Snickle Fritz just comes booming from the basement?
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Would you go down there and look?
With my gun?
I'm like, I'm a Snickle. You're Fritz. Grab my fucking Walther. I won't lie to you, Reddit. I about shit myself.
Yeah.
Obviously, I blocked her and froze for an hour before I gathered the courage to check my completely enclosed from the outside basement.
So the first thing he does is block her, as if that's going to stop Snickle Fritz in the basement.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I waited an hour so that whoever's in the basement can advance up into my home. And then I checked the basement.
I grab a Snickers bar and be ready to throw it at him.
Yeah.
I'll Snickle Fritz you, son of a bitch, in my house, in my basement. Anyways, where was I? I didn't find anything. Thankfully, I didn't have a smart device at all, and I didn't have any speakers that I could have been hacked. I didn't even have wireless internet at the time. The basement was completely empty. I can't explain it in the slightest.
Wow.
Snickle Fritz.
So what happened to the girl? Did they still go on a date? Did
No,
they
he blocked her.
Yeah, well, blocked her on the phone. Maybe he showed up at her house and played Snickle Fritz in her basement.
Yeah.
It's like, you come in my basement, I come in your basement.
That's what you should have said. I'll Snickle Fritz you. I'm coming for you. Another one or no?
We're telling a lie.
Another one or no?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, the next one is sleep paralysis. Not sure if this one counts, but when I was in high school, I had this sudden bout of nightmares and sleep paralysis. I wasn't going through a stressful time or anything, and I don't freak out easily. I grew up watching 80s and 90s horror films and normally sleep with total darkness and doors closed.
If you have to like go on some like rationale about how tough and how much of a badass you are, like, you already fail.
No, dude, this reminds me of me completely. I'm going to have a little snippet after
Yeah,
this.
but like you wouldn't just come up to me and say, I don't get scared because I watch horror films all the time, and like I went to war. And
I didn't go to war, but I'm going to give you a little snippet of something new that happened to me after this.
Oh, okay.
So these nightmares were super sudden and happened almost every night. It was constant sleep paralysis where my room was on fire and there was bats thrashing around above me. I used to have that too.
What?
Or there was a figure hovering over my body and I couldn't breathe, the classic version. Sometimes my speakers let out a strange frequency type of sound, even when it was switched off. Things would fall off my shelves, etc. My mom would always find me sleeping on the couch the next morning with the TV on because it was so crazy.
Honey, what are you doing on the couch?
Suddenly it all stopped, and when I told my mom, she admitted that she sought advice from a priestess who engraved a blessing for me on a silver pendant and instructed my mom to place it in my room. Okay, she didn't want to tell me to see if it would work. I've never had such an episode since.
So she just hid this little charm in his room.
So anyways, I was literally it was in the last 2 weeks, okay? I am not afraid of anything when I'm asleep.
Here we
okay?
go.
I watch scary movies all the time. Anyways.
Never, ever been afraid in my life.
I used to date a girl that was afraid to have her feet out of her covers. She was afraid of it.
That's a very common thing. I think a very big population, even though some people won't admit it, I think it's pretty common.
I sleep all the time with my feet over the bed, just beckoning
dangling there
for evil spirits in this house, even in this podcast room, to pull those goddamn feet.
So,
anyways, one night, literally, I was half asleep, and all of a sudden, I swear to God, my feet were violently pulled. Literally, it felt like there was some force behind it. And I, came out of my sleep. I swear to God, I was like, whoa, whoa. And I was like, whoa, is this why people are afraid about having feet over their bed?
yeah.
And then I was like, what should I do? I'm like, I'm going to sleep with my feet over the bed still.
See, what happened was...
I went back to bed.
Yeah, what happened was the feet grabber, I think is it's called. The foot grabber.
From the
It's
popsicle sheller.
It visits everyone's house like Santa does, but every night. And it checks to see if your feet are over the edge. And it comes to your house every day and it's it's still tucked in a little bit. And they're like, oh, fucking finally. Gives you a good old yank.
Yeah, he called me a Dingledorf. I heard it.
Dingledorf, nice. Well, on that topic, it's actually kind of funny because I was telling my wife about this and she thought I was crazy. So after my parents got divorced, my dad, built a new home, and I was the only one in the basement. My brother was upstairs, my stepbrother was upstairs, my my dad and stepmom were upstairs. I was the only one in the basement. I was younger, so I was like, okay, it's cool because the basement's the place to be. But I'm alone at night. I'm like, it's a little creepy. And so, I used to try and get into the mind space of things are okay, nothing's scary. So you said, I would physically make myself not have any sheets on and hang my foot over the edge, and I would imagine things grabbing me, and I would imagine the scariest thing in reverse psychology to tell myself nothing's gonna happen. And it worked. Eventually I just stopped being afraid. I was like, yeah, okay, I've left my foot out, nothing grabs me, nothing's there, it was fine.
My thing is, I've never been afraid of it, nor have I thought about it. And when I woke up, I was like, is this why people are afraid of that? Is there some weird cultural experience that people have with something pulling their feet when they're asleep?
I've never been afraid of anything.
No, just that specifically. It just seems so weird.
It does seem kind of trivial, but I mean, at the same time,
I was intrigued.
There are people who are genuinely afraid of dark, for example. It's just this, it's an irrational fear. You're afraid of, what are you afraid of? Genuinely, what are you afraid of?
Carnies. The Dutch.
Genuinely, what are you afraid of?
People that are intolerant of other people's cultures,
right.
And the Dutch.
No, but genuinely, what are you afraid of? What makes you nervous?
Really practical shit.
Okay.
Nothing supernatural.
So, but I mean, there's some irrational fears out there. Some people might go into the darkness like you or I, or okay, it's dark. Nothing that's, there's nothing in the dark that's not there in the light. Some people immediately flip and they're afraid of it. So,
yeah, not me at all. That's why we need to start our ghost hunting series.
I would love to, but we need to get a camera that actually records rather than using our cell phone climbing up a cold mountain.
Ooh.
Okay, so back to the Bell Witch story. So John Johnston, who was the son of James Johnston, who was the friend that came to spend the night that one night, he decided to make a test for the spirit. He really wanted to test and see if this thing was legit or not. He's like, I want to get to the bottom of this thing because this is a hoax. So the test was something that no one outside of the family would know. So he came up with a question. And he asked the spirit what his Dutch step-grandmother in North Carolina would say to the slaves if something was done wrong.
God, I hate the Dutch. Okay.
So, something the family would know, right? The witch, in the grandmother's voice, so it's mimicking the grandmother, replied, "Hut tut, what has happened now?" So, like in the voice, responded. So then it dispelled any doubt that this person had that this thing is actually real. Another incident involved an Englishman who stopped by with his own investigations. He's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll check it out." He asked about his family overseas, to which the spirit mimicked his English parents. Early in the morning, he was awoken by the spirit using the voice of his parents, worrying that they had also heard his voice across the sea. So the ghost went to them and used his voice on them. So now she's traveling overseas. She's like leaving this little town. The Englishman quickly packed up that morning and left. He later wrote the Bell family and stated that the spirit had visited his family in England, and he apologized for his skepticism.
Oh, man.
So it turned a non-believer into a believer. This thing has to be real.
That damn Bell witch.
Yep. Every now and again, the spirit would exhibit some form of kindness, mostly towards John's wife, Lucy. Lucy was described as the most perfect woman to walk the earth by everyone who knew her. The witch would sing her hymns along with giving her fresh fruits. So like had a thing for this guy's wife. Your face is kind of like saying you don't believe in this thing.
Fresh fruits.
Fresh fruits. Like,
oh, bouquet of fresh fruits.
Yeah, like those edible arrangements that show
instead
up.
of saying like that was my husband or a secret admirer, she goes, as a Bell witch.
Yeah, it's a Bell witch. She gave me this banana. It's covered in chocolate. Do you want some? While Lucy was favored by the witch, John was not. The witch had even gone as far as claiming that she intended to kill him and would often place curses and afflictions on him. So she's got a thing for his wife, and she's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, though."
Kind of seems like a creepy secret admirer,
right? That's what I'm saying. Here's an edible arrangement for you.
Your wife's so hot.
I'm gonna stab you in your sleep.
I hate you. That's what it sounds like.
That was like the next sentence. I love you. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
The witch was successful in her attempts, though, as John was poisoned and killed. The witch killed him.
I'm not buying this.
No? Who killed him?
Did she shortly remarry?
That's a good question. It doesn't say. I will say this part's funny though. As the mourners gathered around at the funeral, right after he died, the witch decided to liven things up by singing drinking songs and initiated dancing.
I don't believe this at all. I think this is crap.
The internet says it's true, man. This is the story of the Bell Witch. It's 100% factual. So they're all gathering around mourning this guy. And she's like, "Fuck that, we're gonna drink and dance. Let's get in a line and dance here." In 1821, the witch was also successful in causing Betsy Bell to call off her engagement to Joshua. Remember earlier I said that she was pissed that she was engaged. So she called it off and she's like, "Okay, I'm good." So at this point, the entity told the family that it intended to leave, but would return in 7 years, which would put it at 1828. So she's like, "You know what? Killed your husband, got your daughter to break off her engagement. I'm going to peace out for 7 years and I will return later." When the witch did return with its same shenanigans, the family this time ignored all the things that were happening rather than encouraging it, which caused the entity to leave again.
Got a cute family there.
So she just shows back up and they're like, "Yeah, okay, fuck, I don't care anymore."
That
so
witch
she
seems
leaves.
like a womanizer, really.
Yeah. Several accounts. So that's essentially like the main story about the Bell family. So now we're going to kind of branch off to some other things here. Several accounts tell of Andrew Jackson, who, if you don't know, was the 7th president of the United States, being intrigued by the stories of this witch. So he would send men to investigate the house, and supposedly they were all frightened away and would leave. So he's becoming more and more intrigued about this whole thing. And an independent oral tradition that is recorded in the vicinity of Panola County, Mississippi, the witch was actually a ghost of a rather unpleasant overseer that John Bell murdered in North Carolina.
That's why she killed John.
Yeah. Essentially, she's a ghost of someone he killed. It makes sense why she hated him so much.
And Ghostbustered his wife.
Right? Described in this tradition, the spirit fell in love with the central character named Mary, which led to her death. This is reminiscent of vampire lore. The supernatural powers described have been compared also to the jinn in mythology. So let's jump back to one of your stories, and then we'll continue. We'll wrap up the Bell Witch stuff here.
Okay, cool. This one is called Angry Grandma.
What? Did you name this one?
Yeah, I name them all.
Oh, nice. You should get a job like titling stories in television episodes.
Sure.
Because I would watch any episode that's titled Angry Grandma. I don't care what it is.
I was about 13 and my grandma was a believer in spirits, witches, etc. Well, I had just pissed her off and she told me I was going to pay.
Oh my God.
She's pissed.
I'm sorry, Grandma. So, sorry, I got another story. So I was fortunate enough to meet I was actually able to meet my great-great-grandmother, my great-grandma's mom. But we used to stay with my great-grandma pretty often, and when she was upset, because my brother would break things all the time and be destructive, she would say, "Lord Almighty!" And that's when you knew shit was going to hit the fan.
Yeah, good. All right, back to Angry Grandma.
Speaking of angry grandmothers.
That night, I woke up about 3 a.m, and I saw a little kid with a green shirt in my room. He stared at me for about a minute, and I could not look away. He then ran out of my room straight through the door laughing. About 30 minutes later, another figure appeared in my room who looked about 15. He just stared at me and mumbled something, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't talk, scream, or move.
It's like, what the fuck do you want, bro?
Right? I could only look. He then vanished into seemingly thin air. The next night I woke up at about the same time, and it sounded as if there were 50 people in my room screaming at me to kill myself.
What the hell?
Kill my family, and just a lot of negative thoughts in general.
Where does the grandma fit into this?
Get on the school bus. Pull people in porta potties. The next day, I
Fuck you, dude.
The next day, I got anointed, and it stopped. Later that day, I had to see my grandma, and I instantly started to get sick after I hugged her, and she just sat there with a smirk on her face. I then got anointed again, and it stopped.
I'm just going to continue to get anointed. So for those like Cleet and I who had no idea of what being anointed was, the act of anointing or being anointed is being smeared or rubbed with oil as part of a religious ceremony to make someone or something sacred. They're just prepping you to throw you right in the oven and roast you.
Oh,
It's like, you're a bad boy. Where's my olive oil?
Jesus. Okay.
So this guy just likes to be rubbed down with oil.
Can't catch me, can ya?
He goes off to Sister Nancy. He's like, I'm ready for the oil, Sister Nancy.
Back to Angry Grandma.
I done something bad.
I still can't explain how she did it, but I still to this day am afraid of my grandma if I ever make her mad.
He just goes over, hey, Grandma. She has like this gallon of like olive oil.
I'm gonna get ya.
Are you ready for your anointing?
Yeah, it's creepy.
Okay, so back to the Bell Witch thing. So a manuscript from Richard Williams Bell stated the following. Whether it was witchery, such as afflicted people in past centuries or the darker ages, whether some gifted fiend of hellish nature practicing sorcery of selfish enjoyment, or some more modern science akin to that of mesmerism, or some hobgoblin native to the wilds of the country, or a disembodied soul shut out from heaven, or an evil spirit like those drove out of the man into the swine, setting them mad, or a demon let loose from hell. I am unable to decide, nor has anyone yet divined its nature or cause for appearing, and I trust this description of the monster in all forms and shapes, and many tongues, will lead experts who may come with a wiser generation to a correct conclusion and satisfactory explanation.
Wow.
That's a description right there. There have been numerous documented records of the Bell Witch, including books and short stories, even journal entries that you can find all over the internet if you just type in Bell Witch. But the Bell Witch has even been used as a scapegoat for murder. So jumping back to the author that I mentioned at the start, Martin Ingram, he published an interview with Lucinda E. Rawls of Clarksville, Tennessee, who was daughter of Alexander Gooch and Thurney Thorne, who both reported to be close friends with Betsy Bell. Rawls testified, saying that the Bell Witch was a frequent topic of conversation in her lifetime and talked of the murder of a man for witchcraft as evidence of this claim. Ingram wrote, "The Bell Witch was and is still a great scapegoat. Every circumstance out of the regular order of things is attributed to the witch. It has not been long since a man claiming to be the witch was waylaid and murdered by two men who were cleared on the plea that the murdered man had bewitched them." So the murder Rawls was describing was that of Mr. Smith in 1868. Tom Clinard and Dick Burgess were both arrested for the murder of Mr. Smith. An article was posted called "Witchcraft and Murder, Hobgoblins and Old Gray Horses, the Incentive to Crime." It's a hell of a document. In it, it was said that Mr. Smith was under some form of witchcraft and used his powers on Clinard and Burgess, causing conflict between them. Clinard and Burgess were working near the Smith home chopping wood. Ingram appended a date of 1875 or 1876 for the bloodshed and connected the Rawls statement to the death of Smith. This is what he wrote. "Smith came into the community a stranger and was employed by Mr. Fletcher, where Clinard and Burgess, who were also engaged on the farm. Smith professed to be something of a wizard, or rather boasted of his power to hypnotize and lay spells on people, subjecting anyone who came under his influence to his will, and it was reported that he claimed to have derived this power from the mantle of the Bell Witch." However, the writer interviewed John F. House, who was counsel for the defense on the subject, who says that no such evidence was produced in the trial, but that the lawyers handled the Bell Witch affair for all that it was worth in the defense of their clients, presenting the analogy or similarity of circumstances with good effect on the jury. So he claimed to get his powers from the Bell Witch mantle and convinced these two people of witchcraft, and they murdered him.
The mantle of responsibility.
That's it.
Sometimes you have to fight the flood.
So that is the story of the Bell Witch. So there are lots of stories and like murder trials and haunted houses that reference the Bell Witch here and there as like, again, a scapegoat. But the story of the Bell Witch was just that. It was some witch entity that haunted the Bell family that spread throughout the town. Essentially killed the dad, made the daughter not marry, and then fucked off and did her own thing. So that's the Bell Witch story. So again, thank you, Ryan, for your suggestion. It was definitely a fun one to research. On that topic, if you have subjects you want us to cover or topics, please send them our way. entertheabysspod@gmail.com.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.